Hello and back again to our second video in the series of our Spring in Paris quilt along. Now this video is all about cutting your fabrics. When you have picked your fabrics, maybe already filled out your coloring sheets, it's now time to start cutting. So the first cut will go into the background fabric. From the length of your background fabric, cut that strip, which is your left border, on the side of the quilt and will make for the negative space. So you cut that first and you cut it even a little bit larger than mathematically calculated, a little bit longer. So then you have enough fabric to adjust it later if needed. So then you set that aside and this is safe. And from the rest, from the remaining background fabric, you can then later cut your triangles in those strips which end towards the left border. This is your background. All the background triangles and strips will be cut on the go. Next, you cut your prints or fabrics for the balls. Though you have even fit 8s or maybe you bought yardage as I have here. And if you ask me if you should pre-wash your fabrics, I would recommend no, in this case not, because the height of your triangle makes the use of the fabric already a little bit tight, and when you wash your fabric and it shrinks, it might be a little bit too small for getting the enough triangles out of that fabric. So better, if you are used to washing fabric before putting the quilt together, you put your quilt top together and then you soak the completed top in your bath tube with water and you dry it overnight, so it has also a possibility to shrink, but the single pieces can still be cut out of your felt quarters or your yardage. Also a good tip could be to starch your fabric a little bit in advance, because you use spray starch, because you will cut on the bias. And if it is starched, then this prevents a little bit from stretching. So now I will do my first cut. If you go with a fit 8, you will get 2 strips out of one fit 8. If I go with yardage, I cut 1 strip over the complete width of my fabric. This is my template I got from my pattern. When you print out your templates, make sure you set your printer on actual size, though it is really the ratio and size you will need. Also, the template which I gave you has measurements, so you can control if you have printed out your template correctly. You can then put on your ruler on top of this template so it matches, and on the bottom line of your template you can mark your ruler with a kind of marking tape, so that helps you later when you cut the triangles out of the strip, that you have always a reference here. The template gives you the exact height of the triangle, so this is the height you have to cut for the strips. So go to your pattern, find that strip height, and let's do the first cut to make my edge straight. Okay. Now from the width of my fabric, which is on fold, I now cut a strip in the given height. And now I start cutting my triangles. So for the first triangle, if my fabric is on fold, I can place the ruler with the middle marking onto the fold like that. And the first triangle is then just cut on the fold like that. So that saves me a bit, or it's a frugal use of fabric here. And from there on, I lay down the ruler the other direction and repeat cutting. I always make sure that my ground line is okay, and if it differs a bit here, then I adjust that cut so that the ground line of the triangle is always right. So you can stack up more than one strip. You can stack up, I had 6 layers of fabrics. Now this piece, which is left over, will come in good use later when you sew together your quilt and you have those rows beginning with a half triangle plus seam allowance. So I used those pieces here and left this extra fabric, so later I can cut with one straight cut all the complete edge of my quilt top. So as you can see, I got 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 triangles out of one strip. So this is a good number to know if you want to color your sheet in advance. So I would say calculate with 12 triangles per strip for your coloring sheet. So you have actually 13 and 2 halves, but though you have leftovers in case something happens. So I now stack up to 6 layers of triangles onto each other, and I trim off those little so-called dog ears here. See, those tips of the triangle, I place my ruler on top of it, and with a cut or more press, I trim those off. Why should you do so? You might asking. I mean, that's extra time you invest. Is it really worse? Actually, it helps you a little bit later with accuracy when piecing, but it's not the main reason. The main reason is when you later get together 6 of these tips in the middle of a ball and you want to avoid too much bulk in the middle so it lies nice and flat. You don't want to have those extra tips here. So you trim them off right away, and you have first a helper with accuracy when piecing, and later you avoid too much bulk. So that's about your cutting. First, cut your left border for the negative space. Cut your triangles for the balls, and leave the white or the background triangles and those strips and cut those as you go. They actually are cut from the same height of strips or from the same strip width as the colored ones. And you can cut a couple of background triangles in advance. So when you piece your rose, you have something to fill in, and then the ends which lead to the border strip, those will be adjusted later, so we don't care for those right now. So that's about cutting. Have fun, cut your stacks of triangles, and we will meet in the next video when I show you how to piece the rose together.